Hey everyone, welcome back to the Civilmation podcast, and I am, of course, Civil Spider. So, for those of you tuning in that don't know what the Civilmation podcast is, it's something that I'm going to start doing. So, essentially, the idea of this podcast is I want people who are interested in animation, just as I was when I started in my college years about 4 years ago, is, growing up, I always wanted to get into, the entertainment business, more preferably the animation side. But growing up, I didn't know all the aspects of animation and all the jobs that animation has. So, for example, if you're a storyboard artist, a concept designer, a video editor, if you're into motion graphics and stuff like that all ties into, at some point, into animation as well. And what I want to do is get people that are already kind of established. And when I say that, I just mean people that, I don't care if you're a freelance artist, a freelance animator, I don't care if you're a YouTube channel, a Twitch partner. The idea is if you're doing something in animation and it's working for you, I want to know about you, how you started, and what advice you can give for people that are up and coming and really want to get some advice from somebody that's already doing it. And today with me, I have Cidius, also known as Sid, here from Planet Dolan. He is the manager here, my manager as well. And so how you doing, Sid?
I'm doing well, thanks.
Yeah, so you're just waking up, right? Sorry to get you at such an early time.
Oh, that's alright. I said I'm free whenever. Keep into that.
Yeah, so for you guys that are confused, so I'm in the US and Sid is in Australia. So our time zones are a bit different, but So Sid, basically like I've told you before, so the idea is I'm just gonna ask you a couple questions, stuff that pertains to you, who you are, but also as well as the job that you do, and also at the end mainly it's just to give advice to people that are interested in this field and kind of what you recommend, and even for people that are starting up on YouTube who want to do YouTube animation, advice that you can give them from all the time you've been, since you do work with Dolan.
Sure.
So, first question then, or how I want to start this off is, first of all, so your name is Cidius there on YouTube, so is that your real name? Is your name Sid?
No. I have a real name, and it's not Sid.
Not Sid, okay. So, what made you pick Sid or Cidius?
When I was doing online gaming when I was a lot younger, I had a lot of characters on various games, and Cidius was just the name that sort of stuck around the longest, and the one that I really liked playing, and I just ended up reusing that name enough times that it's kind of just became my online name.
And was there a certain game that you played that you got that name to start with?
That would be, it doesn't exist anymore in its original form, but it was something called Night Online, and that
I don't think I've heard of
bought
that.
out. Yeah, it was free to play and stuff, but then they got bought out by another country. I forget. I think it was bought out by some company in a European country, and then I never heard about anything for a few months. And then by then I'd found another game to play, after they'd done server transfers and all that. So I never played it again. But it wasn't that big of a game. But yeah, it was.
But still, that's where it originated from, which is cool.
Yeah, pretty much.
Is that name though still prevalent in everything you play?
Cidius?
Yes.
Pretty much. I'm pretty sure. There was I didn't use the word Cidius in the name Cidius when I used to play RuneScape, which was immediately after Night Online. But then eventually I went back to RuneScape and my name was unavailable and what? So I actually changed it to Cidius. So now it's all Cidius.
Right. I mean, that's how I know you too. And that's the thing with all the Planet Dolan members. I don't know everyone's actual names. Because obviously some people would rather not share it, which is fine. Some people want that privacy. But as you know, I'm sure, Sid, so my name is Tony, and then Civil Spider, I just made it up for League of Legends. Because I play League of Legends, I needed a new name. Civil Spider just came to me by combining Civil War Spider-Man, so Civil Spider, and yeah, that's became my online name. So I was just interested to see how you developed your name, since that is your presence, through the internet. That's going to lead to one of the big questions I have for you, for sure. So, you are the manager here at Planet Dolan, and that entitles you to, I'm sure, a lot of work, because you are basically Dolan's right-hand man. So my first question is, how did you get in contact with Dolan? How do you know him?
Alright, so this goes back a couple of years, and when Dolan was new to doing the countdowns and all that. Before that, he did WoW-related videos, lots and lots of World of Warcraft-related videos. And towards the end of all his WoW videos, he made a video saying, "I'm looking for a new guild," basically. And he made forum posts, and I had a bunch of my raiders. I didn't go out telling my raiders to do this, but my raiders were like, "Oh, this guy's guild's really nice. You should come raid with us." And Dolan originally said, "I found another team that's just for me, and I'm going to start with them." And that just fell right through, like a lot of new teams do. Mm-hmm. And then last minute, he's like, "You know what? I'll go join you guys." He picked us out of I don't know how many dozens of teams. And, well, he joined as a tank in our team. And that was all fun, all well and good. He's actually a lot quieter than you would expect. I remember when we first got him in chat, I was just like, "All right, we're going to make sure this is you. Can we hear you talk?" And like you could tell, and it was like, yeah, he's not the most he's a bit quieter than you would expect from his videos, especially at the time. But definitely you could tell it was him, and I was so excited. And like I told a few of the raiders in the team and all that. I'm going on a tangent here. And like I remember telling one of my raiders, and then she was like, "Oh, do you want me to go check out one of his guides?" And I was like, No, he's joining the team.
So then at the time, then, as compared to now, would you say like he's more quiet, or he was more quiet before than he is now, or what do you think?
I think he's just quiet around new people.
Oh, okay.
And I kind of I put him in the worst situation, which is me, my other officers in the guild, and just him on it. And I'm like, well, that could have seemed quite intimidating. So it was probably that. But eventually he just he saw how I managed my raid team, and in particular that it was really rough times in WoW to maintain a raid team, or that everyone's just trying to have fun and keeping spirits high. Mm-hmm. And still getting the job done. He saw that as a particularly good managerial role, as he's done raid leading before and stuff. And
so that kind of steered off into that?
Yeah, basically he was also at a point in YouTube where he wanted to start hiring people to help him out so he could keep the channel growing. But he was so new to the hiring process, he didn't actually want to hire strangers. And so he thought about the managerial role and thought about me. And so he approached me, "Do you want a job?" And the editor gig was just a way to fill in, because basically I wasn't needed as a manager just yet, but he didn't want to run into a situation where he needs a manager and doesn't have one. So he got me, and he was like, "You're going to be the manager, and we're going to train you up to be the manager. But first, I'm going to train you up to be an editor, so that you have something to do, and you can contribute." And so that's sort of how I've landed this duality role.
So then you started then as a editor, as in video editor for Planet Dolan.
Yep.
Yeah.
But he taught me everything I know how to do it. So started from nowhere, which is pretty all right. I think I picked it up pretty well, but I'm still, leagues behind you.
No. Well, no, don't flatter me, but no, but really, like, okay, so you started as a video editor, which is awesome. So then my question to you then, what did you first start off editing it? Like, what kind of videos, what did you have to do?
Well, my first video in particular, I can link you to it if you like, but it was on he actually got me to start on the Planet Dolan Movies channel, which was pretty much a co-project with one of our writers. What do we call him? I'm trying to remember. I remember his name's Kiefer, and he used that name. But I think that Theta Sigma, that was the other name he went by. But everything wrote down, all the links said Kiefer, but then we'd use the tag Theta Sigma. That channel didn't last too long. But the first video I ever did, I remember it was very difficult for me. I am extraordinarily squeamish, and the first video was the goriest moments in whatever.
Oh, jeez.
And I had to extract video moments and, find, like, I remember one of them was, like, bone twisting scene. Like, it was a bone twisting machine, and I just had to, like, null it down for, like, 40 seconds down to 8. And, that was so painful for me to do because I can't. I just can't, man.
What in the world were you watching? Like, what did you have to do, or what? Like, what was the movie?
Oh, it was a bunch of Saw movies and stuff like that. A bunch of horror movies. I can look it up for you right now. I think I did most of the movie channel videos. There's only about 40 there, I think. So that was quite a horrifying start for me, but I got there.
Man. I can only imagine. Like, I myself too am pretty squeamish. I can tolerate a certain amount, but after a while, like you said, like if someone's like, all right, watch this, and then I see bones crushing, I gotta hear everything and see it. I'm like, yeah, no, I think I'll have my eyes closed or no audio at least. Like, try to diffuse it a little bit. Okay, so that's how you started then. So that was like the first one. I didn't even know there was like a movie channel that Dolan had. But like you said, that didn't last very long.
Yeah, it's only got 16 videos on it.
Oh, okay.
And I think I did most of them, and a lot of them, and as I said, it was a co-project basically between Dolan and Keeper. Keeper was the one writing it, because basically when Dolan was new to Hires, he sort of wanted to know what people were interested in, and Keeper he's like a writer, but his main passion is screenplays and all that, and writing and movies and all that. So he focused on doing those, and the channel only got to I think it got a little bit more subs than the entertainment channel. Okay. I'm not 100% sure, but basically without him writing for it, it was just didn't go anywhere. And it was a bit silly because it was too close to the main channel, really. He has quite an interest in gory movies. So like there's dumbest movie deaths ever. What else? Goriest movie deaths. Yeah, there's a couple kind of gory ones.
So some pretty gory stuff then.
Yeah, disturbing movie scenes ever. I'm trying to remember which was the gory one that I'm thinking of. It was either I don't think it was dumbest movie deaths either, because I know when I started.
Oh, you do know when you started?
Oh yeah, Dolan was basically like May, June when I was discussing the job with Dolan, and then he said, let's just start you at the start of the financial year. So 1st of July was when I started.
Do you know what year?
Yeah, 2015.
Okay, so far, what we've gotten so far, first, you were basically friends through Guild. Dolan liked the way you were managing it. He was looking for a manager, basically, though. He also wanted you to edit, and editing led to the managerial stuff. So that's basically how you started then, with Dolan. So, and compared to what you do now, I'm sure now you do a lot more work than when you started. What would you say that you have learned through all this time that you have been at Planet Dolan?
Well, number one is a lot of editing skills, because as far as it goes, I'm a lot more fluent with Sony Vegas than I was when I started, to say the least. And there's definitely things in Vegas that I'm doing now on a daily basis that back in the day I would have been like, whoa, how do you do that sort of thing, or just little things. Aside from that, what was the original question? Sorry, I tangent too much.
Wait, what was the question? Sorry.
Yeah, that was what was the original question, just so I can hone in on that.
Oh yeah. No, so I'm saying, so like from the time that you started till now, because I know you also have a lot more work than you did before. Like, what did you learn from then till now? Like, just working at Planet Dolan, like, what exactly have you learned? Let's say even about the animation business, since we are primarily now a countdown and animation.
Well, a lot of it, as far as an editor goes, then of course there's all the programs I've learned. But as far as being a manager goes, it's just dealing with people. That's pretty much mostly what it is.
So like, is it like kind of managing everyone to make sure like due dates are kept, people are doing turning in the work that's required of them, like stuff like that? Yeah,
but even like with due dates, I remember originally I would pretty much go straight at people like, oh, this is due right now. And pretty often that it would be the scenario of they were wrapping it up. So I now like give a bit more leeway after the due date that I actually go at people and say, hey, this is due. Where's it at? But is that something like kind of, I don't know if I want to say natural to you, but like, are you okay with dealing with such people? Like, is that just kind of like the person you are? Like, you don't mind being kind of like that? I don't want to say like big time authoritarian, if that's the word, person. I'm happy to be the one in charge. I'm not. I don't consider myself to be a very bossy or aggressive person. So when it comes to people that are repeatedly late, I have a tendency more so to give up on them than I do to harass them into doing it right, especially with artists, because they don't see, a lot of artists don't seem to respond too positively to negativity, you know. So I'm trying to be as friendly and open with all the situations as possible. But there, of course, are some people who, you know, need the push and the shove around, need the push to get the job done. But it is very hard to tell whether that person is going to react positively or negatively, and that is just an experience game, just knowing who's who. And it really shouldn't be, but it really is. Like
has there been run-ins before, like some like bad issues that's came up because of something like that?
I usually manage to diffuse any situation pretty quickly if I do upset people, and just try and keep everyone happy. It's not always the best thing to do. It doesn't always sound like it's the best thing to do, but when you're managing a company of people who are creatives, it's not like when you're managing a McDonald's where they just got to get the job done. When you're managing creatives, you want them to do the job well. If you're giving them a negative atmosphere, they're not as likely to give you a good product, you know.
Yeah,
it's all about quality.
Can you give examples to those who don't know Planet Dolan very much, like what kind of creatives we have here?
Number one is the artists. Like, you can't get a more creative role than that. And yes, they do have to work within the bounds of the stories that they're given and the audios they're given, but we give them pretty much autonomy on the videos. Like, of course, they got to make, you know, enough frames to make the story flow. And there have been times when I've said, you know, you're leaving this one frame up way too long. I need more frames to stick in here so that it flows better. I suggest maybe you can draw this or this. I figure that perhaps it was lacking suggestions of what they could draw. That's the reason they didn't draw. With all that freedom, you never know what you're going to get, and it's quite exciting. Like when I'm editing audios, I always have in my mind, oh, they could draw this, they could draw that, that would work like this. It's never what I get back, and that's quite exciting, though it's never too far off.
So when you say editing audios, then what exactly do you do? Is it kind of more like making sure the audio waves are pretty much kept, like, you know, not too far high, not too far low, or what does that pertain to?
The not too far high, not too far low, that is for some voice actors. I usually just get a raw audio from most of the voice actors, and it's usually just audio cleanup.
Okay.
It's just removing background noise. I also try and remove any mouth sounds, any breaths, anything like that. Just leave in the words and any sounds that they intend to leave in. If they intended it for it to be there, then I leave it in. That's basically it. And I try to make it sound as fluid as possible with removing those elements. Because, I mean, like, I don't know if you've ever removed breaths before, but it's not always a scenario of it's going to sound right without those breaths. Sometimes but if you leave like one or two breaths in amongst a script where all the breaths are missing, and sometimes the breaths had to be missing because you're taking different takes.
Oh,
because
right.
If you snip halfway through a breath, that can cause even more issue, and that's just getting into the niche of it. I mean, like if you go to any channel with lots and lots of editors, like Watch Mojo, you will never hear someone breathe. No one there breathes oxygen. So
right, they'll just hold their breath through the entire take.
Like I dabbled in the voice acting, and I actually learned quite a bit of tricks to do. Well, like when you're finishing a sentence, that one of the things that's very common to do is as you're finishing the sentence during your last word, you'll exhale every last ounce of air at the very end. And I found that one of the best things that you can do to counter that for the audio editing is right as you're finishing those last words, you hold your breath saying those last few words. Give a moment, exhale.
Oh, that's actually a pretty good trick.
Doing that became very difficult to do. But when I started doing it, the audio quality went up. And a lot of people, like when they're doing that exhale, you can really tell because their volume tampers off quite a bit. That's another thing. When their volume tampers off, you gotta buff up that volume a little bit.
Right. Keeping it all leveled and stuff, for sure.
You don't have to have it perfectly level. There's always, like, it's gonna be absolutely it's too tedious to make it all level. I used to do that. These days I kind of just leave it a bit better. Like I might go over a whole section and I'll be like, oh, you can see this section's a little bit quieter. I'll just amplify it slightly. Usually, if anything, I'm reducing volume, especially when a lot of people have a tendency when they're doing voices to almost shout them. Like pretty much every voice I hear people do, they're always shouting them, and I'm like, wow. Stand back a bit.
Right. I guess it also depends too on like the microphone they use, because like they could also just have like the gain way too high.
I'm just talking about like they do a random impression. A lot of people would just when they put on their funny voice, they put on their funny voice and shout it. It's really unusual.
Ah, gotcha. Okay.
I think the only one that does that it never comes through with would be Hellbent, is because he's got a compressor. So his volume is very balanced one way or the other. Though some of the voice actors, I will say, they don't do the increased volume, but some do. So I won't name names.
No,
I know
sure.
I know who does what, and I know, and it's very interesting to me because I know what I'm in for. This voice actor is more likely to have more background noise. This voice actor is more likely to have more mouth noises. This person does this style of like. There's also different styles of doing the voice acting as well. Like you got some voice actors who will do it all in one take. Some voice actors who will do it in multiple takes. Some voice actors who will do it in sort of halfway, where they have a few long takes, and that actually does mean different things for the level of audio editing and the different way of audio editing. And then you got to kind of bring it all together and make it sound like they're done pretty much the same way. And I think I do that all right. But
yeah, I mean, anytime I'm editing, I mean, everything sounds pretty good to me. I don't like ever have a complaint about the audio.
There have been a few times that I've given an audio to an animator, and I said, I'm really sorry, this is the best I could do, because it seems. Basically, when the VAs end up moving, sometimes their setup can get pretty well wrecked, and then they have to just try working with that. And
it's all about, ultimately it's just like they still got to try to get the job done. Which, I mean, in reality, that's all you can really ask for, is making sure like the work gets in so we can keep things pumping out. But in terms of that, then, so I kind of want to ask though. So like you're doing all of this work, Dolan has entrusted you with. A lot of what he has to do, but he's giving it to you. But as the person that you are, is this what you thought, like, you wanted to do? Or is this something you've always wanted to do? Or did you kind of, like, fall into it and just grew to, like it? Or, like, what did you originally want to do? Or what's something that you're interested in doing, if that pertains to anything you're doing at all now?
Honestly, at no point in my life did I ever think this would be a job. I never considered myself for a managerial role, never considered myself for an editor, though. One of the things I do find about being an editor is it's two parts. One of them is that it's skills, what you can do, and the other bit is simply your taste, what you think would sound and look best here. You'll see that's the main difference between all the editors. Even if they all had the same level of skill or absolutely no skill, they would all approach something differently. I think that's probably the main skill as an editor, is to have that sense of taste of what your audience would enjoy the best. And
is that something you feel like you've gained from working here, like kind of getting familiar with what, I guess you can say specifically, the Planet Dolan audience would like, or is it still more just what you feel would be best? Or kind of a mixture of both too? Well,
yeah, it has to be a mixture of both, because it's always what you feel the audience would like the best. You can never really know for sure. And, you take a whack at it and you'll see, okay, they didn't respond to this. Don't bother with this. So then, because in the last podcast that I did, I was actually talking to Salty Squid. And Salty, I don't even know if you know, but, his profession right now, or his main job, is lumberjack. And I never knew that. And I never would have expected him to do that as someone who I see as an artist, So let's take away this title that you have right now. What would you be doing? What did you think you would stumble and do as, like, let's say even a job or a career right now? When I started this job, I was at uni studying accounting, and I was a bit behind on that. So probably 5 years ago, I thought by now I'd be an accountant. Basically, that fell through. I loathe the idea of becoming an accountant now, and it's a dying profession anyways. Glad to be rid of it. Now I'm studying programming, which is way more fun. and way more applicable. And so I kind of...
What
I don't know
kind of programming?
Oh, I'm focusing on games tech, but it's all, you learn one, you learn them all kind of thing. So I'm just taking games tech because it's more palatable, something I enjoy. And so like right now I'm in a group project where we're making a little VR games, so stuff like that. Is
it VR in terms of like kind of control-based games, or is it VR more like something you're going to see?
It's pretty much the Fruit Ninja kind of thing. In particular, we're making like a job simulator in my little group.
A job simulator? Like, wait, like how so? Like what kind of job, or what do you mean?
Well, there's a bunch of people who've made job simulators in this unit before, so we decided, and my group were just joking around. We all seem to have a really good sense of humor, and a magician simulator sounded like a funny idea, so we all voted on that, and that's what we're doing now. Pull a rabbit out of a hat kind of deal. With VR, it's so new that there's quirks in it. So they're trying to emulate real life, but what if real life had all these quirks? So you go into it with a sense of humor, and you have all these funny reactions, and because you're just like brutishly going around with rigid movements, you end up knocking things all over the place, and nothing's done right, and the programming isn't always clean, and the programming is also a little bit difficult to do. So actually they showed us some assignments from previous years, and the year before us someone made a barista simulator, which was kind of interesting, and the funniest thing was we couldn't stop laughing at the fact that they didn't figure out how to, I think they didn't know how to animate each individual person leaving. I don't know why. So what they did was they made it was that when a person gets hit with a coffee, they will burst into a pile of cash. And it's like, well, you had a problem and you had a solution. It's kind of it's an interesting solution, to say the least.
Yeah. No, I like that.
People exploding into money.
It reminds me of those commercials where, like, the Skittle ones. I don't know if you've seen it. Wait, do you know what Skittles are? And I'm not joking,
yeah, I don't know what kind of M&M's, but gooey inside.
Right, because I've seen, like, commercials like someone would, I think it was like a touch or a kiss or something, and they turn into Skittles. Yeah, something like that. Yeah. You're doing all this work. You're actually at uni studying programming, gaming specifically for VR, right? Or you're doing a VR thing?
It's just a VR unit.
Oh, okay.
Like, I'm studying programming overall, but yeah, I don't know how pertinent that is. I mean, like, if it's to what I thought I would be doing, like I theoretically started later, but I mean, like by now I thought I would have a university degree, and my life would be sorted. But life never turns out the way you expect, and I was pretty much, when I got this job, it was, to say the least, an absolute miracle, and I'm not a person of faith, but my goodness, this was just a godsend, because over in Australia, we're having a real job crisis. We have 10 times as many people after a job than we do have jobs, and there's downsizing all around, and it's just how the economy is right now. And of course, the government doesn't like giving out very much for welfare, and they like to say that they're giving out plenty, but then you look at it and Mexico's government gives out more for welfare than we do. It's ridiculous. And so, like, I was starving. Dolan comes around with his job, and there's no way I'm going to say no to that.
No, of course.
And I was like, I don't know what you want me to do. I don't know why you want me to do it, but yes.
So for you, having all this work already, getting all this knowledge, I mean, I'm not saying you're going to leave, like, Planet Dolan or anything like that, but is there still something, like, you yourself personally are trying to accomplish, like, work on with everything you've done? Does it still pertain to animation? First of all, Sid, I don't even know, do you actually like animation? Like, are you an anime fan or cartoon fan?
Oh, absolutely. I love anime. I love animations. There's a few series I keep up with. There's a few series I want to get back into. Like, I don't know, I'm at around episode 480 of One Piece. I know that every year I'm stoked when Ruby's about to happen. I'm absolutely dying to watch Seven Deadly Sins when it comes out later this year. I particularly... So my character's got a sword. Well, Dolan was going to create a character for me. He said, "What do you want to be?" And I threw out a bunch of things. I said, I'm gonna be completely honest with you here. I had just seen Zootopia now, and fuck, man.
You just seen it?
I had just seen it when when my character's being developed.
No way. Okay.
So, and I was like, we have a bunch of anthropomorphic females. We don't have a single male. Maybe I should, be an anthropomorphic male character. So I said I could be a regular elephant, not anthropomorphic, and you could give me a bow tie or something. That'll be hilarious. I could be I kind of like the idea of being a tiny mouse with gargantuan glasses, and then I said I could also be an anthropomorphic fox, or what I also like is just like a floating suit of armor or an empty suit of armor. And I was like, oh my god, FMA, god. Anyways, Dolan went to Vim and they workshopped, and then they gave me something very similar to what you're seeing today. Okay. And my three comments were, make the armor less feminine.
The armor was feminine? Or it seemed feminine more?
Oh, it was. It's not a very... Well, I think it was. It's not a very... it's usually... I think Vim's just too used to drawing girls.
Oh, okay. No, I get it. Okay.
The stuff he does in his private... But yeah, there was like uncovered stomach. And I thought that was a very interesting choice. I was like,
You're like, no, give me a full suit of armor.
Yeah, pretty much. And I was like, hey, let's put some armor in the stomach, over the stomach.
So then how did you finalize it to being a fox in a suit then? Because it seems like the idea kind of separated.
That was from, Dolan took all the ideas I said, went to Vim, and they workshopped together, and they said, let's put the fox in the armor. And then they showed me that, and I was like, I did not even think of this. This is awesome. That is so cool. And
so it just kind of stuck with you then, like, for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I was like, you know what? I gotta have a sword though. I need a sword. I love swords. And like all those animes I mentioned before, they all lots of fighting. I love fighting in my anime. Anime. And I play a lot of games that revolve around combat and stuff like that. Hack and slashes are really fun and all that.
So then, with that, then has that become now? The fox in armor, has that kind of become? I guess you can say your face. Because everyone has a face online. I feel, whether it be the real face, a made-up face, or even a cartoon. Has that become prevalent in your life? Like this fox, like if someone says, "Hey, do you have something I can check up online?" Like, is your fox always something you present because that is part of you now?
Well, I've never had that situation, but pretty much everywhere online, except for when it has to deal with uni life or family life, anything that's to do with my online presence or my work presence, I always use the fox. There's still a bit of a stigma to me to, of course, putting the fox onto Facebook, that stuff. Like I actually asked my family how they would feel about the idea if I got an online presence, basically. Mm-hmm. And well, my father was definitely disapproving.
Oh, really?
Oh, yeah. I couldn't believe it, to be honest. He's a very supportive guy and all that, but he didn't want me to make myself a target.
Oh, is that how he sees it?
Yeah, I was quite surprised him being protective of his 23-year-old son,
I mean, I don't see it that way, but I guess you could see it that way. Okay, well, how does it feel at least now, though? Like, now seeing all the work you do and all that.
I don't think he knows.
Oh, really?
I don't think I've shown him my work at all. Like, my mum always asks, like, my parents are divorced, so it's completely separate. My mum asks, what are you doing? And then, like, 4 times she's made me type in Planet Dolan's YouTube, and I just hope she forgets it every time, because if she finds my Twitter and then my YouTube channel, oh my goodness, she's gonna ask questions.
Right. No, man, I've been in the same situation as in whenever someone says, like, oh, you work at Planet Dolan, oh, you're a video editor, can I see something you've done? And I'm like, oh, I've edited over like 170 episodes. Here's one of my favorites. They'll see it and they're like, okay, so what did you do? And I'm like, what do you mean what I do? I put all of that together. It could be understanding that the, parents wouldn't understand. My mom's still just like you, still kind of trying to figure out what I've done. The only way I ever can prove it, or not prove it, but like best show it is if like I go to like one of my file saves, like a backup I made of a video, and be like, look, I added this text here, I made this sound here, Is that still kind of the way then your mom sees it too then? Like, you kind of have to show her exactly what you've done?
No, I pretty much, I just type in the channel name and I'm like, okay, Mom, you have fun. Bye. Oh. Okay. She did ask me before what I do there, and I'm like, I put in the sounds, I edit the audio, I realign some of the frames here and there, I do a little bit of frame things here and there, I put in some pans, crops, zooms, I put in the intro and the outro, I transitions, bloody blah, basically everything except for drawing the pictures and voicing the words. That's me. Well, it depends on which animator's doing it. I mean, like, you see stuff that's done by, like, Ghost Toast, Sweet Commando. They usually, I think Spinal Farm, they'll do, like, a bunch of animations in there, and that's not me. I wish it was me. I once was given sort of the opportunity by one of the artists, because they gave a bunch of PNGs without backgrounds. They just gave me, like, people pictures.
Oh, okay.
Without background. I'm trying to remember which artist it was. I think it was either Senpai or it was Dre, one of the two. And I was like, hey, I could do a little bit with this, and I didn't actually make full use of it like I should have. I could have animated it slightly, because if you look at most of Ghost Toast and Spinal stuff, it's mostly stills moving, but they've done it in such a good way that it's got life in it, which is really great.
Yeah, there are definitely people I wanna interview. Like, one of the big people I wanna interview, it's gonna be Ghost Toast, just because, like, it's hard. At least for me, it's been hard to get a hold of him. Whether it be like me trying to send a tweet or something, because I don't know. I understand that guy's busy, but like I've always admired those three specifically. And not to put down any other artists or nothing. It's just because I just love the animations they make. To the videos. So I'm always curious too. Like, I want to ask him, like, how long does it take? How do you do it? And the biggest question, like always, is how did you guys learn to do it? Oh, wait. Okay, hold on. I remember something now, because we were talking once about your social media and all that, or like your online presence and stuff. So one thing that I've noticed is, like, you got quite the following on Twitter. You got 3,831 followers as of right now. So that's pretty awesome. How like, because there's some people that'll be like, man, I wish I had 1,000, or I wish I had 100,000. Like, to me, 3,000, almost 4,000, that's a lot of people. So I don't care how someone sees it. Like, how do you feel knowing that this many people follow you?
No, I'm very excited by the idea. Want to gain an online presence, and though I really got to put more hours into YouTube, my own personal YouTube. Of course, whenever I'm working on my own personal YouTube, I'm thinking this is the wrong channel I'm working on right now, which really does suck, because I do want to do my stuff on my own personal YouTube channel. I've got a dozen video ideas I want to do, but between YouTube for Dolan and my own life, it's a real hassle to actually fit in the time to do so. And I know that if I did that, I would expand my Twitter following even further. I thought for a moment you were going to be asking, how did you get so many followers, man?
Now, I would assume your reputation precedes you there from Dolan. Like, everyone knows the famous Sid.
Yeah, a little bit.
Yeah, because so far, no one in Planet Dolan can't say they haven't spoken to you at one point, because obviously you gotta talk to everyone. There's some people. There are some people who haven't spoken to me, and I've tried to speak to them, and I'm like, I guess not. I guess we're not going to talk. That's fine. But that's just how it goes. There's a few people that I don't need to interact with, and there's a lot of people I do need to interact with. So basically, anything SPD, that's pretty much gone without me. The only thing I've ever done for SPD is, like, I voiced one cameo. So. Oh, okay. Yeah, I didn't know if that was something that you also still manage, or is that kind of like more of a for Dolan, like his thing that he focuses on?
Basically, I manage. The idea was that I manage the main channel and he manages SPD, but he's pretty much taken back managing regular countdowns, whereas I manage DTSs. So,
do you guys talk frequently then? I'm sure you do, like all the time.
Yeah, a couple of messages a week is basically it.
Okay.
Usually, once in a while, we'll have a chat. We'll go on a Skype call just like this, and future topics and stuff like that to do with DTSs. We'll discuss direction of the channel. I'll report in as a manager and all that sort of thing. That hasn't happened in about a month, but it's probably going to happen again very soon.
But okay, so here's a couple things. So like, you know, coming up, working with Dolan at uni, was originally going to be an accountant, has a job, you know, you now have this job at managing, you know, a big channel here on YouTube, managing the Dolan True Stories. You gained, you know, editing skills, managerial skills, you know, having to communicate with people. So like all this stuff that you have learned to what you've become now, but like even you said yourself, you're still learning, you know, programming on the side, something else, a different skill set. So I guess my question is then ultimately, not to say that it'll happen, but what would be next for you? What is something that you aspire still to accomplish, you know, outside of Planet Dolan?
Well, outside of Planet Dolan, I, of course, want to complete my degree, and I don't know where I'm going to go with that. Like, ideally, Planet Dolan will expand further and further, and maybe I could, maybe if we looked into more games, maybe I could put that to use. But for now, it's just, the future looks like it's just going to be editing and managing the company, current contents and future contents, which there's more coming, guys, you know, so keep an eye out for that. And of course, I want to expand my own personal online presence, you know, get more Twitter followers, get more YouTube subs. And last year I had this goal that got completely shattered, which was I had the goal of getting my first AdSense check from YouTube. But then they brought in the first barrier of 10,000 views. I was like, oh, great, 10,000 views. And then they add in the 4K subs. And I'm like, yep, this is never happening now for sure. So,
Right. So yeah, it's rough right now. Even
so
for me, I got hit by that, but oh well.
Yeah, it feels like an uphill battle with that. So I guess that is a bit of my demotivation there, because it's like, you know, I'll never get that 4K hours, you know.
Right.
But if I just put out enough videos, I'm sure I would. Putting in that many hours to get that difficult.
Oh no, for sure. Even I still haven't done that, and I felt like. I felt at one point I was like, maybe I'll be okay. But I was like, yeah, I doubt it, because same thing. I have to still stay on top of it, but I'm always so focused on every other thing I'm trying to do, especially in terms of being a freelance. But now, to kind of start wrapping things up, there is something I want to ask, which is, I don't know specifically the demographic for Planet Dolan, meaning I don't know the age, you know, the range between boys and girls that watches. But at the end of the day, everyone that comes to Planet Dolan, I would assume, has some interest, you know, in cartoons, in animation, and stuff like that. So, from where you were to where you are now, what is something that you definitely can pass along? What advice can you pass along to those that are watching that want to get into this industry, want to get into this business? You know, and this is just purely from your own experience, of course.
With this business, more so than a lot of others, and a lot of others, this is amazingly important. You hear it everywhere. It's networking. It's more about who you know than what you know. And if you want a more prime example of that, look at me. I did not have any skills, and I'm now rather skilled working for this channel. And that wasn't what I knew. That was who I knew. And you look at so many of the other professions, it's who they know. And if you want to be an artist, it's who you know, because those people that you don't know yet, those other artists that are doing so well, if you make friends with them, and I don't say go pester them, I'm saying if you can collab with them and all that stuff in useful ways and all that, you'll expand your own presence. And having that presence will open way more opportunities for you than anything else. You could be the most skilled artist in the world, but if you don't have that online presence and that networking and that foundation there, then all that skill is going to mean nothing, and your art, it's not going to reach the masses. It's not going to go anywhere, and that is the saddest thing to hear. And of course, you having that skill does, of course, attract some people, and you will get somewhere, but not nearly as far as networking will. And this really sucks for artists, because a lot of them are rather introverted. I'm thinking of things like Sarah Scribbles. I'm thinking I think that was what it's called. Have you seen that? It's like
Sarah Scribbles?
Yeah, it's a little comic strip about an artist she's rather introverted and all that. And I always just think of that as the quintessential artist in that sense, you know, they're
Oh,
quintessential. But,
yes,
you know,
yes.
basically how a lot of artists are, but they're very introverted. They don't want to talk to people. They just want to chill at home and do their little doodles without being judged and all that. You know, it's adorable, but unfortunately, you really have to get yourself out there to really get anywhere. And like,
No,
working for Planet
that
Dolan is a
makes
great.
sense.
Like all the artists that work for us, they've of course amassed a bit of a following, and they've got their work out there and all that. And if you can find something like Planet Dolan, it's a big step, you know, because it adds to your portfolio, it networks, and you amass a following. I don't think there's anything more important than, you know, good networking skills, which I know a lot of artists aren't going to like to hear, because they're not going to want to network. They're going to just want to hone their own skills. That networking, that's even going to hone your own skills better, because you're going to have people to critique your work, to give you tips, you know, and to give you support when you need it, and that's invaluable itself.
No, for sure. I mean, because even when I was starting out, same thing. Like, I didn't know it. Even till now, I don't even know as many people as I should. But I've never taken networking more serious until 6 months ago. Up until now, like, literally, if I'm not editing, if I don't have something to do, I guess you could say immediately do, then I'm literally on my laptop, and my sister can even attest to this, because she's making sure I'm doing it. I'm messaging people, I'm sending out applications, I'm even sending out, like, emails to people that, like, 99.9% they're not going to respond to me, but because of that 0.01% that you never know can happen, I send it anyway saying, hey, I was wondering if you're looking for someone. If so, here's my info. And the amount of responses I've gotten and the amount of people I've gotten work to do for because of that, like, there's no way that I would have gotten that if I didn't put myself out there the way Cidius is saying. And definitely I agree with Cidius on this. So Sid, then, like I said, I'm wrapping things up. So then my final question for you then, and now in the profession that you're in, do you regret ever choosing this? Ever sticking to what you're doing now?
No. There are some regrets I have in decisions I've made. Like, of course, you make decisions along the line
of course,
that I, of course, regret. I can tell you the biggest mistake I did, and it was really early in my career as an editor, was I got approached by Dolan about should we even post this video, and I liked the video, so I said yes, but I didn't realize that demographic, and the video bombed like crazy. And this was when after that video, our views got halved, and I was like, oh fuck.
Wow.
So I mean, like, I don't even know if you want to put that in there. I don't know.
Okay.
But that was just not knowing the demographic. So I guess I regret not knowing the demographic. Is essentially it.
Right. But
which,
I mean, ultimately, I guess what I'm asking more is just the job that you have now and the title. I mean, because there's people that go into certain jobs and they're like, you know what, I regret not taking this opportunity. I regret not doing this commission or something, you know. And since we're in this business, I just, you know, just hearing it from you, because you are, you know, high up there in this company. Like, do you regret ever doing this? Aside from, yeah, of course, some past mistakes that you've made. But I mean, who doesn't make those every now and then?
No, I wouldn't say I regret this at all. It's been a very, very opening experience. I've learned a lot about myself, what I can do, about other people, about, you know, just I've learned way more from this job than any other, just because I came into it knowing so little. And, you know, even if I walked out today, I would have walked out learning way more than I ever would have imagined especially about people, and like how to interact with people and keep a high morale. And I know that's even why I was hired, was to keep that high morale. But I've learned so much more about doing that and keeping everyone on track and all that. I don't think I could have learned this much this quickly without a job like this. So there's no way I would regret it. It's not like there's it's not like I passed up anything else to take this job or anything. So there's nothing I could regret. Unless it's not like I guess I could regret getting an online presence if I suddenly started regretting my online presence. I guess that would be the only way I could regret this job, and doesn't look like that's anywhere near. I wonder how many people actually think work for Planet Dolan then, because Dolan doesn't really have a secretary or anything like that. I mean, like, he had an assistant for a short while. That didn't last too long, but as far as it goes for Planet Dolan, like, for editors, it's basically just me and you and Martian, and there have been some other editors like Mikhail and Gergak and Tolok did some stuff, Keeper did some stuff, but for the most part, the main editors of Planet Dolan have just been me, you, and Martian for the past year or so.
Right.
And that's all. That's all there was. And when it comes to managers, there was just me. When it comes to animators, or artists, there's only about a dozen, but there's like 20 total. But there's only like a dozen that are currently working. A few of them are like on break. A few of them are like, I'm done with this. And then you've got the same with voice actors. We've got like
I would think of, let's see, Doopy, Hellbent, Ramona, Melissa. Oh, not Ramona, sorry, Melissa.
Oh yeah, with voice actors like this, we've had 10 total, and I think we got 7 working right now.
Well, it just seemed to me like a big thing, because when I saw episodes of Planet Dolan, like the countdowns especially, in my head I'm like, oh, there's definitely someone looking for photos. There's definitely someone making sure these photos you can use, and then there's definitely someone who's doing the recordings of the audio. Like, I thought, it was a whole big thing, which it is, don't get me wrong. I guess it was just more from the outside. It looks so much bigger because also the sub count makes it seem so much bigger. So overall then, everyone, for those of you that are still here, thank you for sticking by. So again, this was Sid. So Planet Dorian, whoa, where is my mind? Planet Dolan, manager, editor, goes to uni, learning programming. He oversees everything, and overall, just one of the head honchos here at Planet Dolan, and you guys heard it from him too, all the advice he has, and overall, Sid, then, is there one last thing you want to say before we get off?
Yeah, I kind of want to go back to the networking thing, just because I want to, because I actually see a lot of people trying to network, and they try to go through me, and sure, why not? You can try that. Don't know if that will work, but a lot of them I see they're doing it in a very, very wrong way, and it's not just try to network, but you've got to learn how to approach people if you're going to network. You've got to leave a good impression, and if you're just messaging someone that you aspire to and you message them hi, they're probably not going to respond. If you message them 5 paragraphs, they're probably not going to respond. So you got to sort of
find like the middle ground.
Yeah, you got to figure out how to engage the people that you want to engage in all situations, and that includes when you're networking.
Oh,
and,
yeah.
And those are like, you can't have a first impression, and I realize it's a losing battle to try and teach them one by one how to talk to people. So I feel I should probably say it here. You should probably go out and sort of see how to approach people when you're starting out networking. If you go about it the right way, you'll network really fast, you'll make some great friends, and you'll grow yourself as whatever profession you're doing a lot faster by just learning how to network before you try to network.
All right. So, thank you, Sid, again, for coming on to the Civilmation podcast. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it. For anyone else that's here, if you're new here, feel free to subscribe for more. Definitely going to be having more guest speakers here, such as Sid here. Overall, Sid, so I know you have a Twitter, and I know you also have a YouTube. Is there anything else that you would want? Because I will be leaving your links in my description of this video.
I haven't made anything else yet, so that's all there is.
Okay, so everyone, if you're watching, feel free to follow him and check out what he's doing. But other than that, that is it. Thank you guys for listening, and have a great day. So Sid, thanks again for stopping by, and we'll talk soon.
Yep, thank you for having me.
All right, have a good one. Bye, everyone.